Here we
Okay.
are on the 29th of June. My spouse wants to get us shirts, little
What are
sweatshirt,
we running? A gas station?
little golf shirts with it says
Dawn and
Dave.
Ed.
Yeah,
No, that's not my name. That was the guy who sewed this on. God, south of the border,
it's
down Winooski way.
it's Monday, the 29th of June.
You know what we're headed towards?
Uh,
I mean, besides oblivion.
Armageddon. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Canada Day.
Yes, that's right.
Canada Day. And who better to have a couple of days before Canada Day than the
Joey
guy
Elias.
himself? Yep.
Yes.
Joey Elias.
We'll be on today.
I don't know if Joey...
Dan Laxer is joining us on the 1st of July. I contacted, remember Dan?
There's an old CJAD alum.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into some CJAD stories on the 1st of July, so I have a couple for you.
God.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't get into it now, but because
Okay.
I'm too busy humming like a Rolling Stone. I've been watching.
Why is that?
I've been watching Scorsese's 3.5 hour epic on Dylan. It's called No Direction. 3 hours and 28 minutes of Woody Guthrie and dead folk singers, but it's fascinating. 2005, and I'm not a huge Dylan fan, but every time I hear Dylan, I think of this man, Peter Howell. I went to school with Peter Howell 40 years ago. Peter was a film critic for the Toronto Star for many, many years. He's retired now. I think he's gone off to do other things. But Peter was a Dylan disciple, and this is all he played in the apartment. We shared an apartment in Ottawa on Othello Avenue. I've just looked this up just this very minute. We lived in this apartment building, and he would play
any apartment building.
yeah, and he would play Dylan, and of course I was listening to Brothers Johnson and Led Zeppelin and all sorts of stuff. I think so. We would have these stereo sort of fights, and he would play Jack of Hearts and Rolling Stone,
He
and
was a strange man.
and there was no and nary a word could be said against Dylan because I would be denounced and
Yeah, you see, I was sort of with
threatened with
you. I
violence.
didn't get the excitement. And Dylan, to his credit, many years later, after somebody was asking him the meaning for the 48th time of one of his songs, he says, "Man, it was just a song."
yeah, but
You know,
still,
it was,
and
anyway,
I'm not
no,
dumping on Peter.
When I do hear him, there are times I can really get into his stuff, but all day long, oh my God.
Yeah, but anyway, I shout out to Peter because I haven't seen Peter in many, many years. He's a bright guy, very, very good writer, film critic for many, many years, well respected in his craft. So
Why are you watching this?
I just started watching it this morning because when I start doing my yoga in the morning, I do my stretching. I like to have something either to listen to or to watch. And since my room is only 4.5 feet wide by 6 feet long.
Well, the Dick Van Dyke thing would be perfect as
Yes.
you trip over the ottoman.
As I trip over the ottoman and look at Mary Tyler Moore in her capri
Try
pants.
Scorsese's attempt to film, as my dear departed dad used to say, the Rolling Stones concert.
Have not seen that. I did watch his.
It's like herding cats.
I can just
feral
imagine.
cats.
I watched his epic on the band with Robbie Robertson and
Oh,
company.
The Last Waltz. That was
no.
tremendous.
No, this is I forget the title now. Once we were friends, I believe. It's a fairly recent documentary with Robertson being the narrator essentially of the entire story, and
Very,
it's very
very bright
interesting.
guy.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I was lucky enough to interview him. He was in town. It may have been for the Jazz
Oh,
Festival.
did you?
And he really thought about what he thought about. Now, I don't want to suggest anything, but there were times where he just stop and kind of zone out. And he mentioned himself quite candidly that those boys did a lot of drugs for many
Yes,
years.
and you will
But
hear about
really,
that.
really thoughtful and smart. And he said Joni Mitchell taught him more about music than anybody. And this includes working with Dylan. And that band was
Yep.
wow, what a band.
And
It was the band.
it's interesting because early on in the Dylan piece, you see when he was booed in London in the early days, and
Electric guitar, right?
right, and then the band was backing him up in those days too. They don't mention it in the Dylan documentary, but they talk a lot about it for obvious reasons in the band documentary. So worth
Was it
watching.
in London or Manchester? Was it London?
Could have been.
It was somewhere in
It was in the
England.
UK for sure.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
and
He
of
was
course,
he was breaking the saintly code.
absolutely with the electric guitar and things
he kept
slightly
at it.
out of tune, and my goodness. So
Well, you know, the one on the Stones, I went to see it with Brendan Kelly at the Scotia Centre downtown. I don't know how many years old it is now, and I've not been a big Stones fan for many years. You know, they're always there. They're going to survive Armageddon.
I saw them at the Olympic Stadium.
Oh, well,
last
they had
time.
about
Yes.
65,000. Anyway, those old goats can still bring it.
Yeah.
It was they gave it. You got the full. It's like watching Springsteen. You got your 3 hours worth, pal. Great stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and watching an 80-year-old man jumping up and down on stage is always something interesting. But they're hanging in
They are.
there, and they're
Listen.
going to sue. They're talking about suing Donald J. Dickhead.
Who, the Stones?
Yeah, for using "You Can't Always Get What You Want" at his rallies.
Good for them.
So they got the
Here's the
lawyers
weather.
on that. Here's the weather forecast for for the Kabonga Reservoir and
Gouin Reserves.
and the Gouin reserves. Bob Hardy.
I tried to search for Saint Eustache. It's not there.
No, we're not there anymore. Google called and they
yeah.
said we're taking you off the map.
19 degrees. We're expecting more rain today. It's been good for the gardens. I'm sure your gardens must look gorgeous.
Beautiful.
We're getting a
Lush.
good chance of showers
Yes.
again tonight. But look what else I found for you. You said my old environment.
Oh,
Canada was boring.
you have color on your
Look.
computer screen. Oh, good. Interesting.
I was up there drawing this all last night. There's Saint Eustache.
Yes.
And little as I know, I thought I knew a lot about Quebec. Saint Eustache is actually a bit to the south of what's that place? I can't think of it now. Of course, I can't. Think of it. Anyway, there's Montreal.
Yep.
You're probably getting rain now.
A little bit. Yeah.
If you're not, a little bit. And really, look at the townships. It's really getting belted.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. And that's AccuWeather
no,
you're
there's-
on,
there's-
of course.
there's
That's
still-
not even
yeah.
Environment Canada.
Yeah. Well, don't they all use Environment Canada as their source?
They do. Yes.
Anyway,
I think so. Yeah.
And this, but apparently Boston has just been, it's been raining it's been, as somebody said, it's been biblical, the rain Boston's getting. And then poor Nova Scotia here, Halifax and all that, and PEI and New Brunswick are just getting pummeled. There's Maine, Lamont. And this lady is.
Oh,
this
exactly. I was going to
is.
bring it up because I mentioned this the other day, and it was the movie about her and everything else. Yes.
Yeah, Hidden Figures. This is Mary Jackson. She worked at Langley, Virginia, the NASA Research Center in Langley. The movie was made called Hidden Figures with Kevin Costner in 2016, and they were treated like absolute dirt. Because not only were they were women of color. She, Katherine Johnson, and Dorothy Vaughan, often with pen and paper, worked out some of the most difficult mathematical conundrums that got John Glenn into space. As John Glenn said it, when they didn't think the figures were quite right, he said, "Please call Ms. Jackson." And they're naming the research center after Mary Jackson. It will be on Hidden Figures Way in Langley, Virginia. And look at you are a machinery nut. Look
Yeah,
at this.
but-
This
yeah.
looks like an old radio.
Yep.
So there we go.
Absolutely well done. Kudos to the folks at NASA.
Enfin.
There we are. All right, Mr. Elias is standing by. He's right on time, like a good broadcaster is. And let's see if we can bring him in here. Joey
Average
Elias.
Joe.
You've interviewed Joe on a few occasions. Oh my goodness, there he
I've
is.
tried- yeah.
Oh,
He
looking
doesn't-
Good morning.
Morning, Joe. How are you, pal?
How are you?
I'm
good.
What's
doing very
going on?
well. Well, I saw the
Oh.
last time I saw you, you were wielding a hockey stick.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, you were
Down the
doing
street?
one of your stand-ups. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Frighten-
for Global.
Yeah, frighten the
Yeah.
daylights out of people. Well done. Good for you.
Thank
pal.
you. That's what I like doing. I like scaring people.
But you are a gentleman.
Oh, thank you. How you guys
Yeah.
doing?
We're doing all right. How long have you been doing the bits for Global? Because I've been catching up on them, and how long has it been?
Almost, it'll be a year in July.
Okay, so it's relatively recent. Okay, I thought I'd missed
Yeah.
more than I had. All right. Are
First
you
time
having?
And I
I
only
met
took,
you. Sorry,
I
go
think I
ahead,
took
Joe.
2 weeks off the whole time.
Okay. Are you having fun doing that? Because it looks like you are. You got a good cameraman too, or camera person, by the way, because the bits
Uh,
are really well
David
shot,
is, David
well cut.
Siddell is the best. He just has this way of seeing things that I don't even ask to see the pre-cut. Like
Yeah.
I just wait for the finished version, and I'm like just amazed every week at what he does.
I can tell just by the way you address the camera, because you appear to know that the camera will follow you and will stay with you, whatever you do, even if you do something impromptu that might not have been prepared with the cameraman. I can feel that in the shooting. It's very well done. Yeah.
Thanks. There's a lot of impromptu. I should mention
Yeah.
that with me.
Yeah.
And when we first met and we first started working together, it was just we went for coffee, and we just sat down. Okay, this is how he just explained to me this is how I like to shoot things, and I said I just like working, free flow and stuff like that, and he was like, yeah, I'm good with that. So boom.
For people
It
who
was just,
like behind the scenes, Joey, how long does it take you to shoot one of those segments? I mean, is it really that free flow, or bingo, you're finished by midday, or what?
No, it takes us about the filming aspect takes us about 3 or 4 hours, and I call it my parole day. So it's Tuesdays.
Yeah.
David will pick me up in the Global vehicle, so he's like my parole officer. Get in the car, we have fun for 3 4 hours, and then he drops me back home with back to solitary. Maybe he lets me pick up a coffee or something along the way, but it is a fun time though, and honestly, during the pandemic, it was a godsend because it let me. First of all, they let me continue doing them, but it kept me, writing and creative in a sense. Where if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, because there are no live shows, right?
They're starting up, which is going to be interesting, but no, in the heart of it, nobody was doing anything. We were all sitting around talking to one another, and comics. I mean, Yvonne, you hung out with us for a while at the
Yes.
beginning there,
I
so
dabbled. Yeah. Yeah.
we're not the most uplifting bunch when we're amongst each other. There's a lot of doom and gloom. So
Yeah.
the first month was like, seriously, are we all going to get a job at the packing plant? Like, are we all going to do different shifts? And I remember telling somebody that in the midst of it, I went out to get something for somebody at the pharmacy. And I made the person behind the cash laugh. And I was just like, I'm going to turn around and do 6. I'm going to do 6 solid minutes in line.
In front of the
Because there were
thermometers.
people there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, is that for your personal use, sir?
Yeah. Could you move over to
Yeah, exactly.
could you move to aisle 3, Mr. Elias, please? Just move over to the laxative area if you can.
I don't know how many times you've told this, Joey. Maybe you're sick of telling it. I think I got it out of you before we did one of our home run comedy nights. You were there, and Barry Julian and all these Montreal vets. But did you actually lose a bet in order to get up there on stage the first time?
Yeah. So the long story of it, still short, was my good friend who we call Piggy, still to this day, because in grade 11 we were reading Lord of the Flies, and they described Piggy, short, thick glasses, asthmatic, and I turned around and went, "Oh my God, it's you." And then when he had his child, I got his child a Montreal Canadiens jersey that said Piglet on the back, and learned very quickly not to call his wife Miss Piggy.
Yeah, you get a slap in the chops for that, pal.
But we were going to the Nest since we were 15 to go see shows. And then he knew that I was writing my own material. And then I think we were skipping school in CEGEP, and he bet me a pool game. And if I lost, I had to go do stand-up. And the part of the story was Rick Bronson and David John McCarthy happened to be in the pool hall. And so I lose the game. Piggy walks over, explains to them what happens. And we kind of knew Rick because his younger brother Adam he was the goalie for our hockey team. So we kind of knew of Rick. Had to pick up the old style phone, left a message for the booker at the Comedy Nest, explained everything. I put down the phone, and David John McCarthy goes, great, that was my machine you just left a message on. I'll see you Wednesday. That was it. So I went up, and I thought, one and done. You know, I was 17 at that time, and then, like most good Jewish kids, summer came along, and I went off to summer camp to work. And I came back to see a show, and the doorman went, "Where have you been?" You know, I said, "Well, I went away, I did whatever." He says, like, "Yeah, but you were good. You should come back." Did it again, and then Ernie saw me once. Just said,
Ernie Butler?
"Stick around." So
Ernie Butler.
Came to, yeah, he was, yeah. But, I mean, it was such a great time back then. I was so fortunate to start when I started. You know, Ernie had put together what somebody had called a great 5 draft years, you know, where he had David John McCarthy and John Rogers. He brought up Barry Julian, who is now living in New York, very successful as one of the executive producers on a thing called The Colbert Show.
Yeah,
I don't know if
heard
people have heard.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody's heard of it, but he's doing quite well.
Barry's doing well.
And you know what? You speak of Barry, just before all the pandemic stuff went down, the Nest celebrated a 40th anniversary. And Barry came in, a bunch of the old guard came in, and Barry was like, "Look, I haven't done stand-up in like 12 or 13 years." And he went up to do 7 minutes, and it was like, "What are you talking about? You haven't done it. You're lying." You know, like he was so spot on. His timing was amazing still. His writing, obviously, you know, writing for Colbert, that's going to be sharp. But, you know, I mean, I have a show this week that I haven't been on stage since March 13th. And knowing that I'm going to be on in a week's time, I have that same feeling that I had in the pool hall when I was 17. And they looked at me and went, "Okay, you have a week." You know, like you have a whole week now to go, "Oh boy, am I funny? I'm about to prove that I'm not funny."
So where's the show?
So it's nerve-wracking, and we're all starting from scratch.
And the show is where?
At the Comedy Nest.
Okay.
At the Comedy Nest. I'm not on the website, but the show's on the website. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All the heavy hitters actually are coming out. You know, Derek Sagan, Heidi Foss, David Pride. Mike Patterson.
David Pride. I haven't seen David in a long time.
But Joey,
David could be the best kept secret in the country.
He's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen
David,
him
I'm
once.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just, it's interesting, Joey. You said you had the same feeling you had when you were 17. So therefore, you're obviously not, "I don't want to do this anymore." You still have that feeling of absolute terror, and boy, this is going to be fun.
Is it
That's
terror?
what I think the combination is. Well, it's terror for me.
Have you tried it as well?
No, I emceed a couple of things. I emceed one night when he was there, and Barry Julian. I thought you were there. I wasn't sure. Heidi Foss was certainly part of it, and even the emceeing frightened the daylights out of me. So, not in my genes.
I love the excitement, and I still got nervous before every show, before I go on every, you know. I think if you don't get nervous, there's something wrong. You know, it's motivational nervous. It's not, you know, a Johnny bow or throw up before every hockey game nervous. But this is a little bit more heightened because I've never taken this long off from doing stand-up. So this, and the advantage is we're all starting at the same level again. You know, unless you're people like Barry who just come on out of nowhere and just kill it. But I think that the advantage is too that we're all so anxious and so out there. And so far, everybody I've run into on the streets have been like so excited that the comedy club has opened, because they were like, "I can't watch another, you know, comedy special. I need to see it live. I need to be out there." You know, the precautions at the club, you know, I think the maximum now is only 50 people. And that's better than doing it with nobody in your room. So I'll take that.
What
Yeah,
about
we talked to Andy Nelman. Remember that
Oh,
email?
yes.
We talked to
Yeah.
Andy Nelman, Joey, and he said it'd be very strange doing it to an empty room, and it would be even stranger to do it with a room full of people with masks on. It would be, you know, like watching a bunch of mafia people looking at you. It'd be very, very scary prospect.
I rather that than the no people, but I didn't even think of the mask aspect just because living downtown Montreal and walking around, you would think we found the cure. Nobody's wearing a mask downtown. You know, the only people I see wearing a mask are, you know, other than myself, delivery people. You know, so Canada Post, FedEx, UPS, they're all protected. You know, if you order food, I always see the guys with the gloves and same thing. But, you know, people going into malls, going, like I mentioned, the pharmacy, that's the most bizarre thing to me, is that the pharmacy of all places,
Yeah.
don't you think should have mandatory masks?
You make a very good point. I'm
The
starting to be
one
an angry
place that
old
should
man
have it.
about this.
Me too. And what's interesting is the shift, because I remember when, you know, this first started, all my friends called me up and go, who knew you were right the way you lived the whole time? You know, kind of this, you know, introvert germaphobe. And now the same people that were applauding me are going, you still wearing a mask? Ah, you're just paranoid. How? It's amazing in how, you know, 4 weeks everybody's mind can shift. I'm glad we had a leader that didn't tell us to drink or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all three of us would be sick right now. Yeah, I actually got to the point. A woman, and it's every age group. It's teenagers. It's people in their mid-20s, people 30, 40, middle age, our age. And I turned to a woman who was pushing a pram, and I said, "You should have a mask on." And of course, got a dirty look, and I felt like, you know, Dennis the Menace's neighbor, Mr. Mitchell. But golly, people seem oblivious, not
I
defiant
saw this
or anything,
thing on
oblivious.
Twitter just before where it was in the States, obviously, but somewhere in this giant grocery chain, the manager goes up to this woman and says, we have a policy, you have to put a mask on while you do your shopping. And she just snaps and now starts emptying her cart by yelling and throwing everything onto the floor. And this is what I don't understand is, again, the shift. At the beginning of all this, remember, come together, we're all in this as one. And now it's like, screw you, you're on your own. You know, like what happened to the humanity in us?
Yeah. I have a right to be ignorant and die.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Somebody said that the act of wearing a mask should be considered an act of altruism.
I think so.
And I think that's just the greatest way of putting it.
Yeah. Because you're wearing it to help other people. It's not for you. It's for the other person. The least they can do is reciprocate. So anyway, but I think carrying a hockey stick is also an excellent idea.
Yeah, last
At
week
all times.
I walked down the street with a hula hoop around me.
Yes. With the tape, the black and yellow
Yeah.
tape.
I just do that because, like I said, I don't watch until the finished product, but I really enjoy watching the reaction of the people that I walk by that have no clue. And, you know, David hides himself in the corner of the street. So they really have, but that's the other thing. If you look at that lineup, that was for a t-shirt sale and nobody's wearing masks. And look at how crowded they are. You know, we were talking about, because I end up calling David Miss Daisy because I sit in the back seat. You know, it's, he goes, where do you want to go? And we say, all right. I mean, if you watch them, we always pick a local business. Even before the support local, we were always in a local coffee shop, mom and pop, or you know, quiet mom and pop run business. We've always tried to support the local business, and now more than ever. And that's the shame, really, you know. But again, you know, here we are, three middle-aged men. People were up in arms last week at the Barbie barn closing. And everybody's outraged. I asked them, go, when was the last time you were there? You know, oh, Sweet 16.
Yeah, what a
How
terrible
do you get
loss.
mad if you haven't been there since the 40s?
But you're right about David having a good eye. Both of you do. When you walked with the tape along, well, I don't know what it's St. Catherine or one of the side streets, and the look on the girls' faces as you went, he held that shot beautifully. It was really
Yeah,
fun
and
to
the
see.
beautiful thing about David is he's self-taught. I mean,
He's the
that's
best
incredible
guy.
to me. Is he got basic training, you know, in film work, and then just, you know, developed his own little style. And um, it's just so nice to work with somebody who's just, again, just so open to creativity and is. He'll come to me for ideas as well, like in terms of music, or like this week I think we used the theme to King of Kensington,
Yeah.
um, which, you know, a lot of people had no idea what that was. And then you go, oh, you know, Al Waxman, he owned like a dep in the back of his house. And they just, who's Al
Serious.
Waxman?
Getting to be a
Yeah.
long time ago. Yeah.
Well, let's get back to your show coming up. Is it this weekend, Joey, you said?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Comedy Nest. Just go to the website, comedynest.com,
Okay.
because they're really trying to do the no hash.
Okay. I'm curious about the material now. Are you going to go? So I saw two guys with a mask, or are you going to go back to something or delve into things that have nothing to do with what's going on around us right now?
I have some COVID material that I wrote. What's really interesting is even before we were in lockdown, the political correctness movement really was something to see. And now, especially with the political climate the way it is, I wonder. I mean, I'm not too worried because I never got too crazy, you know, political on stage or whatever. But some of the people that were, um, it's an interesting time because, you know, with all the movements that are taking place while we're out there, you know, and while we weren't on stage, whether it's Black Lives Matter, you know, the trust or distrust in the cops. That's another thing. Isn't that interesting? The first month, yay, the cops, their first, you know, and look at us now. Nobody trusts a cop worth anything. So there's going to be a lot of COVID material. There's probably going to be a lot of Trump material and American material. But I'm not gonna change anything. I mean, some of the jokes that I thought I couldn't do anymore, you know, like it just didn't fit in. Thanks to the pandemic, I've kind of reworked them in, you know, like with Zoom technology. I actually had an invite to a Zoom Shiva.
Really?
And were you sitting like this in the Shiva? Like that?
Not me,
Was
but
it?
they
Oh,
were. Yeah, just see that. That's
so this would
brilliant,
be
actually. Yeah, just see
the
the
Shiva.
top of the heads of the
Yeah.
people sitting. Shiva.
Sorry, that just came to me. I'm sorry, Joey. Please
That's
don't
hilarious.
tweet. Don't tweet.
He's going to steal
No,
it. Why
no, that's
not? It's
brilliant,
great.
though. Um, so, I mean, you know, there were so many different experiences through all this that, and again, everybody has a different point of view. You know, I was by myself, and then you talk to another comic who's got 3 teenage kids in the house, or you talk to somebody who has 2 young kids in the house, or they're newlyweds. You know, so I mean, we all have bets going on that what's going to be higher, the baby boom when this is over, or the divorce boom.
Yeah. Could be both. A lot of single
Oh.
parents out there all of a sudden. Listen, are you going to do science fiction like the Canadians making the playoffs? God, that's such a weird
Oh, I don't
situation.
understand how. Listen, I'm a big sports fan, but
Yeah, I know. Big
hockey in
Canadians fan.
August just doesn't appeal.
No.
You know, I mean, I was saying to somebody the other day, if they're in a hub city, they're obviously going to have 4 or 5 games a day in a row, like back to back to back to back. So if your favorite team happens to be on, you know, let's say Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, but it's a beautiful day out in August, and you have a tea time, are you going to give up that tea time and miss a beautiful August afternoon for hockey? Not me. You know, I love hockey, but I like playing golf, and that season is short. I don't know. There's also something about it. for me that 100 years ago they didn't give out the cup because of the Spanish flu. And is, they
1919,
just
yeah.
should have just been like, well, every 100 years we don't give it out. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. We're starting to run out of space for names anyway. Just
Yeah.
leave it
And,
alone for a while.
and 2020 is just take it out of the book, right? And forget it.
If anything should be canceled, it's this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Listen, it's interesting you mentioned that, though. The reaction is, I think a lot of us, because I'm a huge sports fan, too, we're thinking, what am I going to do? And now, as you say, look, if I've got a tee time, I'm not going to watch a bunch of guys race around an arena with nobody there. It's a beautiful day. I got to get out. I'm finally
Well, you
being
got to
given the
think that
chance to
some
get out.
teams, well, that's it. I mean, as soon as it's sunny and, the lockdown or quarantine, even under the quarantine, like I was still taking a walk every night. I'd gear up, I'd put the mask on and everything, and I'd try to find the least populated area. But now I don't, but sport to me, I mean, yeah, baseball, I think it's just also my OCD. Like it's got to be in the right time of the year. You know what I mean? But
I agree.
yeah, I don't know how many hockey fans remember we were all complaining about the playoffs, like the Stanley Cup ending like June 17th last year. We were like, oh, that's too late. But now the same people want it to be starting in July. That's very weird to me.
Yeah, not hockey. That's for sure. Wait, how's your golf game, by the way? I saw you said you were out with a bunch of Canada geese or something playing golf.
Yeah, I got a little close. It was okay. It was a fun day. I mean, I tell everybody that we golf with, we're not good enough to get mad. Let's just have fun.
Joey?
Really? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out this morning, buddy.
Oh, this is so crazy. Honestly, like having two legendary broadcasters ask you to do something like this, you're like,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I'm in
Aren't
for
you?
sure. What time? Doesn't matter.
We got him out of the home just for this morning.
Oh, Joey, that's very nice of you to say, pal. I want to give you a hug when I see you.
We love you, Joseph.
Listen, hugs are in order for sure when this is all done. And I owe you guys a drink whenever.
Break a leg this weekend, my friend, and my goodness, I wish I could be among you, but we will be together one day soon.
Have
Yes,
fun,
I
Joey.
hope that is very soon.
Take care, bud.
See you, man.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Thanks,
You
Joey.
too. Take care.
Joey Elias. Again.
So you did the Shiva thing. You got your writing stuff again.
You like that? You like that?
I thought that was very,
off the cuff.
very fun.
And I'm going to get a hate mail from every rabbi within 10 miles. Making fun of Shiva.
Yeah.
Or as I called it once, Shivas.
Shiva. Yeah, that's a royal Shiva.
That's right.
Right?
Comes in
Shiva
a-
royal.
Yeah, it comes in a purple bag.
Yeah. Funny, you don't look Jewish.
You don't look Jewish. Yeah. And please don't tell people you are. Oh, my.
Oh, dear. Well, that was fun. Good way to start the week, bud.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yes. So tomorrow, who is with us? Ms. Steinberg to me.
Yeah, Shirley Steinberg. Shirley was on our show when we were on the weekend show. You would come on and do your thing once we get you once a month, once every 3
I think
weeks?
so. Once every other week or something like
Strange
that.
but true, right?
Strange but true, yes.
God, have you kept the scripts?
I think I may have them on a backup drive somewhere, but my favorite, I
God.
was thinking about that the other day. Strange but true, Vermont actually does not exist. Do you remember that? And you had the same reaction. This was back in the 940 days.
My God.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Holy mackerel.
And I remember another one too that got you going was it was after a round of budget cuts, and I announced that 940 CBC was soon to begin dispatching cabs. And I remember getting a dirty look. Who was it? Who was our producer at the time? It was.
Oh my gosh.
Was
Was I doing the weekend?
no,
morning
you
show?
were doing Home Run. This was in the afternoon.
Was it Carolyn?
Carolyn Warren,
Oh,
the
yeah. Well,
long-suffering Carolyn Warren.
And God love her,
bless her.
brilliant, but her sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to bring her up to speed a lot.
I'd
Yeah.
get we'd get a kind of a school marm look through the glasses.
Carolyn, it's okay to laugh now.
She
It's
reminded
okay.
me.
Yeah.
my old school principal from Toronto at École Sainte Madeleine. June Jodoin is her name. She's a lovely woman. She's a nun, and she had the same look as
Quebecois or Franco-Ontarian?
June is from Quebec. She lives in Longueuil now, I believe. I haven't not seen her many years, but she and Carolyn actually look a little bit alike. They're not the same age, but they had the same kind of. It was a mixture of disapproval and sort of a quizzical kind of and disappointment all kind of wrapped up.
There was disappointment. Yeah, I thought you could do so much better.
That's right. Yeah, I thought you'd do better with your life, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's right. What are you doing with your life? And you know, the two of you together, it's even more disappointing. And Carolyn, my gosh, I haven't seen. She went out to work at Banff.
She's out west, I think, somewhere.
Classically beautiful blonde woman.
Yes,
features,
Carolyn.
lovely.
But she was actually very generous with you and me. She was quite forgiving.
Because we were ne'er-do-wells, complete ne'er-do-wells. But God, I forgot.
We should get
cabs.
We should get Carolyn on to have a chat because
I'll give it a try.
She's into film and all sorts of things, and she's
running the Banff Center. I'm not sure what they're doing this year, but she's running a big section of the Banff Center for Art.
Thought of her, so she's another very successful person. So maybe we can get Carolyn on. Okay. So what are we talking about with Ms. Steinberg tomorrow? Stuff?
Well, Shirley
knows a lot about many things. Yes,
and she just became a Canadian citizen too. She's originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Or
I did not know that.
Baltimore.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and a complete shit disturber, very funny, and her area of expertise is popular culture.
Oh.
So I'm sure she's got something to say about that. She's a loudmouth American.
I haven't
got something
heard
to say.
Shirley speak on air in quite some time, so that'll be good.
Well, she got in trouble one time on the morning show on the weekend where she said Gordon Brown was a complete and utter idiot, and just the phones lit up. So Shirley will say it. So we'll talk to Shirley tomorrow. She's out at the University of Calgary these days.
Okay.
And again, just became a Canadian citizen.
Well, that would be great. We can talk about that. I'm sure she'll have a few things to say about her birthplace.
Everything. She's got something to say about everything.
All right. Okay.
Thanks a million.
Demain.